Today, we're diving into the secretive consulting industry. Some of you will already have some insights. Maybe that's where you want to work after college. Or you've heard stories about scandals and transgressions on the news. Or you've had to deal with consultants at your own company. But how does this consulting industry actually work? Why is it still relevant, almost 100 years into its existence? Who are the big players and what do they do to reinvent themselves? Stick around because we'll give you an inside look. Let's start at the very beginning. What exactly do these consulting firms actually do? In a nutshell, consulting firms provide actionable business advice to companies, NGOs, and governments. They help businesses and executives achieve their goals, improve performance, and devise new strategies. The work is typically project-based, with specific timelines, teams, and deliverables. This advice is often quite expensive, so that it's mostly large businesses that can afford consultants. Think of Fortune 500 companies or large public sector entities. They'll hire consultants all the time for all sorts of projects, but especially for high-stakes situations. Whenever you hear a company announcing a strategic move, an important decision, or an entirely new direction for the future, there's a good chance that consultants were already at the scene for a couple of months ahead of time. To illustrate, here are a few project examples. Imagine an airline that's thinking about acquiring another airline to consolidate the market. Consultants could help along the entire journey, from deciding whether this is even a good idea in the first place, to how the companies could be integrated with an optimized operating model, all the way to an aligned brand strategy for the future. Or think about a bank that would like to set up a new digital bank to compete with all the new startups in this space. Does that even make sense? What would this digital bank look like? And how would you go about setting it up? Or think about a retailer that's struggling with profitability. Are there new and innovative ways to increase prices and margins? Or is it more of a cost-cutting effort? How could they buy merchandise cheaper? Or reduce headcount while avoiding business interruptions? You see, there are really countless ways in which consultants can be involved. But you may wonder, why would a company hire consultants in the first place? Can't they do this on their own? That's a great question. Aren't these projects well within the core businesses of the clients? Actually, they are. But there are still plenty of good reasons to hire consultants. Firstly, consulting firms bring industry experience to the table that clients often don't have. Think of the examples from before. The airline client of course knows how an airline works, but they may not have a lot of experience in acquiring and integrating another airline. The banking client knows how banks have been run for the last 100 years, but that doesn't mean they know how to set up a digital bank. They're struggling with their legacy IT and typically have no clue how to set up a digital business from scratch. And as for the retailer, yeah, of course they know their own business, but they often don't know what's happening in the market. A large consulting firm knows what the leading retailer in the world is doing to cut costs and increase efficiency. And oftentimes, these insights are not restricted to the client's core industry. A consultant can provide insights into how an adjacent industry works. Almost any industry gets digitized in a variety of ways. So you may ask yourself, what can a client learn from a leading e-commerce player? Second, consulting firms provide specialized resources and capacity. A client typically doesn't have the people to execute such a project. You can't just assemble a team of 5 or 10 people that work on a project full time. The client's employees have a day job and simply no capacity. And even if they have a dedicated strategy team or a transformation department, sometimes the project management experience is simply lacking. If we're talking about a huge, make or break project, it's safer to hire consultants who do these projects all the time. And consulting today isn't just about creating fancy PowerPoint slides and then leaving the scene anymore. Many consulting firms have extended their offering and are much more involved in implementation. They'll bring in specialists for data analytics, for customer journey design, or actual programmers who'll do some of the heavy lifting in the beginning. And then they help in capability building within the client organization. Not something you can launch from within easily. And third, consultants provide an independent look at the organization, free from corporate politics. An internal strategy department often has difficulty in driving fundamental change. They may be afraid of stepping on someone's toes. A consultant is often much freer to point out inefficiencies and suggest improvement ideas, or reimagine the entire corporate structure. Consultants often serve as sparring partners to the CEO, who likes having an independent look at things. Consultants help cut through the noise of competing interests among different business units, board members, and middle managers. And of course, consultants can be used to validate existing strategies. They may provide the ammunition for a CEO who wants to restructure the company. Now that we know the basics, let's see which companies we're talking about. There are tons of organizations and individuals that provide consulting services, and anyone can call him or herself a consultant. But let's focus on the important players. The top firms in the industry, let's call them the Tier 1, are McKinsey & Company, the Boston Consulting Group, or BCG in short, and Bain & Company. Collectively, they're often referred to as MBB for their beginning letters, or the Big Three. They're among the oldest and most prestigious companies in the industry. Now, what makes them so special? For starters, they are the largest strategy consulting firms, starting at $5 billion in revenue for Bain and more than $15 billion for McKinsey. They have the biggest reach, with offices around the world in almost any major city. If you need an expert on a certain industry, or for a certain geography, in all likelihood, these firms will have one. They have enormous relevance. If a company has an important, make or break type of project, or needs to develop a strategy for the next 10 years, it's most likely that one of these three companies will be hired. Also, these firms' publications and reports and their strategic thinking are the most cited across all consulting firms. They also have a strong support network, with researchers in all corners of the world, with analysts in the back office, and with service centers around the globe that, among other things, help consultants build beautiful presentations quickly. And of course, these firms have some of the best people. Since they're so prestigious, they get hundreds of thousands of applicants each year and can select the best of the best. These people then cement their respective firm's position atop of the industry. Outside of Tier 1, there's not such a clear pecking order. While there are many great firms out there, what they all have in common is that they're behind MBB firms in one or several dimensions. Either they're not as global, or they don't have such a deep expertise across all areas and functions. But in areas in which they're strong, they can compete with MBB firms. And boutique firms with a focus on one sector or one function alone are also quite competitive within their focus area. A special case are the Big Four firms. These are the professional service giants Deloitte, Ernst & Young, KPMG, and PwC. In terms of size, they're even bigger than the MBB firms. But their bread and butter is accounting, auditing, and tax advisory. In recent years, they've built sizable consulting arms, by themselves and through a number of acquisitions. Given the fact that they often don't have such a long history in strategy consulting and substantially lower fees, they're often used for implementing a strategy that's been developed by an MBB firm. But of course, they're aggressively looking to build a reputation and take a bigger share of the market. So you see, there's a lot going on, with all players jockeying for positions. Not only Big Four firms and boutiques are constantly looking to up their game. Everyone, including the MBB firms, keep innovating and reinventing themselves by adding new services and capabilities. Take McKinsey as an example. Yes, strategy consulting is still at the heart of what they do, but they've been acquiring numerous companies to strengthen their offering and to meet ever-evolving client needs. There's Quantum Black, a London-based company with roots in Formula One, a pioneer in big data and advanced analytics to improve organizational performance. Or Lunar, a San Francisco-based design firm with Apple as one of their clients, both acquired by McKinsey in 2015. Or more recently, the Swedish Material Economics, focused on sustainability and resource strategy. US-based SCM Connections, focused on supply chain planning, or Iguazio, an Israeli company focused on AI and machine learning. These are just a few selected examples. But all of them show that McKinsey wants to provide cutting-edge insights and capabilities on the most relevant topics for clients. Today, they do much more than just high-level strategy. they increasingly provide deep operational know-how and support implementation to provide end-to-end client service. And of course, McKinsey isn't the only player doing this. All of them are pushing in that direction. Because that's what consultants do. Always stay ahead of the game and help clients with their most pressing issues. A great example is the trend around generative AI, with ChatGPT as one of the main tools. Within weeks of the concept gaining mainstream popularity, consulting firms published first major reports on it, almost as if they invented the thing themselves. And of course, they're coming up with calculations of the trillions of dollars in global value creation potential, which can be unlocked by engaging their services. And there you have it. That's the consulting industry 101. What these companies do, why they're hired, who they are, and what's ahead. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell for more content like this. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions or if there's a topic you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.